It is a joy to welcome you to Newman Lumen on this brisk Thursday morning. I'm Reverend Julie Tonneson, and I'm the Associate University Chaplain here at Elon. Newman Lumen is our time that we've carved out during the week to gather to be intentional about listening and reflecting and sharing some time together as community. So we have lots of treats and ways that we're going to do that this morning. First, with a musical performance by Twisted Measure, which is Elon's oldest a cappella group, and then a poetry reading by Jayla Martin Beasley. So please help me welcome Twisted Measure and then Jayla.
If you're gonna leave, better do it fast. Can live a little longer sitting on your leg. Ooh, oh, fight or flight, I'd rather die than have to lie in front of you. Oh, 'cause I wanna feel all that love and emotion, be that attached to the person I'm holding. Someday I'll be falling. You maniac, you maniac. Ooh, oh. Jen, 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 either way, jen. Oh, hey, you were off with someone that I don't know. Hey, kind of wish I didn't know. Jen, 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 Joe. Well, jen, 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 jen. Den, 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 den. Jen, 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 jen. I'm in love with you. Jen, 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 jen. Admit there's someone new.
I don't love you anymore, a pretty lie that I adore. 5 words that I've heard before. Don't, 'cause you keep
lover on a leash. Every other week
when you
leave.
I can't be
Kiss that
you don't lie between your cut that always
I never really been in love. Choose to trust your common sense, but cut people out like tags on my clothing. I end up all alone, but I still keep hoping. I feel love emotion. Oh, psychopathic, don't be so dramatic. We had magic, but you made it tragic. now you're manic. Honestly, I had it. Listen to yourself, think you need to get some help. Tell all your friends that I'm crazy and drive you mad, that I'm such a stalker, a watcher, a psychopath. I'm telling you, hey, we can date it just for laughs. So why don't you call me and tell me you want me back, you maniac, baby. So you maniac, baby. So you maniac, baby. So you maniac, baby. Some may say Jen, admit there's someone new.
That always
The cut that always bleeds, drive you mad. I feel love emotion. I feel love emotion.
Hello, hello. Get up for Twisted Measure again. That was amazing. All right, well, hello, good morning, good days, everyone. All right, so I wrote this poem at a time where I needed love like I needed air, and I hope that can be at all relatable for anybody. All right, and I don't know how much this crowd knows how poetry works, but it is not a silent affair. So if you hear something you like, snap, clap, whoop, do whatever you gotta do. Believe me, I need the encouragement. All good, all good? Okay, so when I say humans are made to love, believe me, I know how naive I sound. I mean, hey, cynicism is just common sense. I know we live in shades of gray, like it's the color of the seasons, but listen, I want to live in a world of love letters and pink lace, nipping bitterness to the quick, you know, like mad, nervous, butterflies in the stomach, whole world turning stars in the eyes, glowing beautiful. I want every word out of my mouth to drip with compassion and grace. Every step with love in mind. Run dead grass between my fingertips and thank it for its long life. It's just how I feel. I mean, if I could stuff roses into my eyes, thorns and all, just to tint the sky into sunset pink, I'd romanticize Mondays and Thursdays and Sundays like rose-colored glasses every day of the week, every week of the year. Winter can just mean that the earth is sleeping. Does this make me green as summer grass and my eyes warbling and wet, young as a spring bloom, knowing nothing? I mean, shoot, I guess so. Just tell the world I'm new. But still, I want every book to be about love, and not just the moment that lips touch or birds sing, but the way that blood in the veins is thicker than the waters we drink, is thicker than the breaths we share, is softer than the words that comfort, words that soothe. I want every single page to have a flower placed lovingly between it, no thorns this time. I've tasted enough pain to know that love is sweeter, cut my tongue on jagged bitterness, but to be honest, I'm done spooking at commitment, bucking against my instincts, my evolutionary want to grow a defense. There will be no thorns this time. My cynicism lay on a top shelf. Here's a proverb for you. To see the world for its beauty is a form of self-indulgence. It is hedonic and it is selfishness. But it's a good selfishness. It is exhausting, after all, to take every jagged edge and sand it down as it comes flying towards your neck, isn't it? Rework my sight towards every ugly thing to see the other side. The grass is truly greener, but the shadows can make that hard to see sometimes. Cliche and whacked out it may seem, but love, baby, is everything. Not just love like make it in under the moonlight, but also love like what the Greeks knew. Love like swapping homework answers. Love like fighting over McDonald's fries, right? Love like tripping over your feet and then holding out your arm to catch them at the same time. Love like making playlists, mixtapes, edits, and memes. Love like a mother's kiss. Like coffee in the pot, enough for 5. Like group chat notifications every few seconds. Like FaceTiming every single day. Love like loving someone you've never even met. When death comes for me, I want to press a gentle kiss on his cheek and thank him for making life so meaningful. Thank him for letting love exist, because without love, there really is no me, because we were made for love, if you'll forgive the naivety. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Twisted Measure and Jayla, for getting us started on such a powerful note this morning. I have the distinct honor and privilege of introducing our speaker for today, Luis Garay, Director of the Gender and LGBTQIA Center. Luis and I started working at Elon in more full-time capacities right around the same time. And when I tell you that Luis has been integral to my work here at Elon, and one of the people who keeps me showing up to this place every single day, I mean it. Luis, in addition to being the director of the GLC, is a creative who is engaged in writing and food blogging and freelancing and podcasting, which are all incredible parts of who they are. I want to tell you 2 quick stories about Luis, and then I'm going to shut up because their story speaks for itself. But throughout our work with Spirit and Pride, I have had the honor of traveling to all sorts of places with Luis, from a rural camp in North Carolina to a Sikh Gurdwara in Durham, and most recently, Chicago for a big interfaith conference. And one of the things that I love the most about Luis is that in each of these wildly different and sometimes unnerving scenarios, Luis has been so authentic and so genuine and has shown up in the fullness of who they are in each of those places. And that is something I so admire about you. The other thing I want to tell you is that Luis is my go-to for any time I need someone to ask me how my day is and to be able to hold my authentic answer. I don't ever feel like when Luis asks me how I'm doing, that they expect the polite, I'm good, how are you? That they genuinely want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly about my day and about my being. And I'm so grateful for that gift as well. So without further ado, please help me welcome Luis Garay.
Hello, good morning. It's so wild being up here after 3 years, sitting out in the audience. But I just wanted to thank Twisted Measure. And can y'all join me in giving a round of applause to Jayla Martin Beasley, who I am sure is the next North Carolina Poet Laureate. I'm just gonna call it here. So shout out and thank y'all for being here. Good morning, everyone. Thank you to Reverend Julie Tonneson for the invitation to speak at today's Newman Lumen, and to all the TC staff, Truett Center staff, for their work in curating this weekly space of Newman Lumen. Former multi-faith coordinator Allison Pelhees one time called Newman Lumen an introvert's college coffee. And I, as an introvert and slightly socially anxious person, gravitate towards this framing of Newman Lumen. One of the earlier Newman Lumen speakers this semester talked about how they came to speak at this semester's Newman Lumen. Similar to this speaker, I'm here at the invitation of Reverend Tonneson, and similar to that speaker, I said yes before I knew the topic. When Reverend Tonneson invited me to speak, I remember asking what the theme was, and she said, "The theme is your story." Crap, I thought. Can I go back to last semester's theme of dreaming? You see, I really dislike talking about myself, so when I heard the theme was me and my own words, I immediately thought about backing out. But there's something about myself I know to be true. 1, I try my best to keep my word. And 2, because of my constant feeling I am disappointing or on the verge of disappointing everyone around me, I couldn't say no. So I agreed. And I've been thinking about what story of myself to share. And as my therapist would be the first one to tell you, I over-intellectualize everything. In the spinning spools of my brain, I thought about what sharing a story means and how safe one has to feel in sharing a story. One of the spinning spools produced a thread of a thought about how I would be in front of a group of people who would hear something about me and potentially change their view of me. The story I want to share with you today starts with a moment several months ago at Oak House. Have y'all heard of the place? It's really good. I'm sitting at a table outside of Oak House with an Elon colleague. We are meeting to get to know one another and develop an interpersonal collection to collaborate on work. At the end of our meeting, this colleague says, "Oh, we didn't get a chance to talk about you. Tell me everything about you." Without missing a beat, I say, "Oh, me? I'm boring. I just go home and have 2 cats." And this is the story I want to tell you today about how I am a boring individual. If this were a movie, and suddenly you saw a montage of my youth, you all would see a really quiet kid. Someone who was incredibly shy and who loved books. At some point, you would see me hanging with my cousins and my family, my first friends when I was 14, who I would spend every high school summer with, and someone who could just talk to everyone. Friendly, kind, and really sweet would be the descriptors you would hear from others. I was the kid who every teacher would put "a joy to have a class" in their report card. What you might also see is someone who listened more than spoke, who was happy to dole out advice to friends, and who in a group of friends would actively listen, but again, never really spoke. My self-perception of my own boringness as a person was actually really born here in my youth. When you don't speak, people don't tend to ask you anything. When you are the one person people come to for advice, you don't tend to go to others for advice. So I internalized this almost invisibility to self-reliance. If no one was coming to me, I could figure stuff out on my own. Wrapped up in all of this is also a story of a queer brown youth who knew from an early age something was different about them. I often wonder if my shyness was to blend in with the world around me. It was better to be not seen and not heard, because to be seen and heard would be to be visible, and to be visible might mean compromising my safety. To be boring meant to be safe. Self-reliance looked like coming to the realization I was queer when I was in my early teens and desperately wanting some kind of guide to help me come out and just be queer. In the early 2000s, which like some of y'all were born like 2001, 2002, which is like so wild. But anyway, in the early 2000s, queer and trans existence existed in limited ways, both in media and in my world. So I came out at 15 in Starbucks to my best friend at the time, and I set out on building a queer life. Building is a really generous word on my part. Again, with no guide and a strong sense of self, I, for lack of a better word, just existed, making it to the next day and the day after and to the years that followed. I'm gonna summarize the next decade of my life from ages 15 to 25 with 2 words: Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga to me represents the guides I did have. I didn't have a guide to come out to, but I had women I saw in popular media. There's an interesting correlation between young queer people and women in pop culture. It has been often said that queer people gravitate towards strong women in popular media because we see a similar lived experience in them. They and we navigate oppression and a world that doesn't often see our strength. While I didn't have a guide, I learned from each of these women. I learned how to be funny and witty from Fran Drescher and The Nanny. I learned about community and the magic within each of us from the Hallowell sisters on Charmed. I learned it was cool to be punk from Hayley Williams of Paramore. I learned I had a place in the world when Lady Gaga sang Born This Way. And I learned about the strength of queer and trans people of color dreaming from Mother Octavia St. Laurent in the documentary Paris is Burning. Again, no guides per se, but in these women I watched and learned from. I'm gonna summarize the last 7 years of my life from ages 25 to 32, I know I don't look it, with one word, pink. That one word pink, I'm gonna summarize the last 7 years of my life from ages 25 to 32 with one word, pink. Part of my invisibilizing myself, making myself boring, was also in how I dressed. My color scheme for so long had been black, dark gray, and dark blue. When I turned 25, I made a conscious choice as to what I thought at the time was taking charge of my health and wellness. I didn't always make the greatest choices doing this, but in the years that followed, I found fashion and style. Part of it was because I had lost a significant amount of weight and could finally shop at department stores. I started to develop a sense of style, turning to colors I hadn't worn before: browns, purples, oranges, and pink. To me, wearing pink, like I am now, and I did have to do laundry yesterday to wear this pink today, gives to the younger Louise who desperately wanted to play in colors but knew consciously or unconsciously that being visible could compromise their safety. To be boring was to be safe. As I come to the end of my Newman Lumen talk, I wanted to share about one other thing: perfectionism. Part of what has contributed to my sense of being a boring person is when I look around, I don't see myself doing amazing things like this friend over here or that colleague over there. They say comparison is a thief of joy, and I really think they're right. In the summer of 2020, I embarked on a journey to embrace my creative self. With 2 leftover Bojangles chicken strips, 2 pieces of locally made bread, and a sauce concocted by the contents of my fridge, I made a sandwich and created a food blog. The year that followed, I began working on a personal website, a place to hold my creativity. I'd also been working on a podcast, producing a podcast with my best friend. I had these side projects existing outside of my work life, but because they weren't perfect, and also because of the messaging I had heard about what it means to be a professional online, I didn't feel like I could share this deeply creative part of myself. Then, in early 2022, I'm sitting in a coffee shop with the incomparable Melanie Bullock-Harris of the Center for Leadership, and I shared, really let slip, that I had this food Instagram. I'll never forget Melanie's expression, the excitement and enthusiasm that radiated from her. She said, "Luis, this is incredible, you have to share this." But because I'm a perfectionist and because I was worried about what others professionally would think about my creative projects, I recoiled at the idea. Then I thought about it. This is me. Yes, I have a job, but I also have all these creative interests. So in mid-January of this year, I began publicly sharing about my creative self, which has led to some incredible opportunities. In March, an alternative newspaper in Guilford and Forsyth counties called Triad City Beat reached out about an opportunity to write for them. For the last 7 months, I've been a freelance culture and food writer for them. I also get to connect with people in the city of Greensboro, where I live. My food blog went, what the youth would say, viral, and I've become, which I never thought I would say, an influencer, specifically a food influencer. Y'all, I'm not even joking, at least once a week, I get stopped in Greensboro and someone says, "Are you?" And with the energy of Rihanna walking the red carpet, I say, "Yes, hello," and wave them off. Actually, I'm really totally kidding. I respond with, "I am," and strike up a casual conversation. To end my talk, I tricked y'all a little. I'm not a boring person. The real story is how I'm learning to make space for all the brilliant things I do and recognize my younger self who learned that to be quiet and boring was for their safety. I'm learning to talk about myself more. I honestly would have much rather spent this time telling you about the brilliant GLC staff I work with, who are here today. I want to tell you about them because they are an incredible group of people who have a passion and an ethic of care for the work that they do. I like to think that a strength of my leadership is the ability to be their best cheerleader and champion. But what I'm also learning is I need to be a cheerleader and champion of myself too. So thank you for your time and for listening to my story. And in the spirit of being my own cheerleader and champion, and because I'm obviously very much an influencer, I'm gonna say that you can follow, like, subscribe, but truly, if you're really interested, you can just go to www.luiswrites.com, shameless plug, and you'll see a part of my boring but not boring life. Thank you.